Guppy. I'm Vice President for the Washington Policy Center, and this is our regular update of the work that we're doing. And in fact, this is the last update we have for 2022. So we want to wish everybody a happy new year, and I'll tell you what kind of issues we're working on and then what we're looking forward to as we get into the next year. So first up is something that we've worked on, of course, for years, which is fighting a personal income tax being imposed in Washington state. And we consider this to be one of the major advantages that our state has. There are only 7 or 8 states that don't have an income tax. Washington state is one of those. It makes our state attractive for investment, for opportunity, and for the great companies that have started here. We think that the income, having no state income tax, is a reason that so many great companies, from Boeing to Amazon, tech companies, have started here, Microsoft. And so with that, Jay Inslee and the Democrats who govern our state have been working very hard over a number of years to impose a state income tax. They passed a bill a couple of years ago. It's being challenged in court. We have been tracking this very closely and, in fact, providing most of the background research that's used in the court case itself. The update is that the state Supreme Court has now scheduled a hearing on January 26th to hear the income tax case. The bill was already struck down by a lower court as being unconstitutional. We think the obvious facts of the case and the clear language of the Constitution, just plain English, make it obvious that this tax is unconstitutional in our state. But our state Supreme Court is fairly political, leans very much to the left, so we're not sure what kind of twisted language they may come up with in order to confirm the income tax. We don't know how that's going to come out. January 26th is a hearing, and we will see. In the meantime, 7 amicus briefs have been filed by various groups, including Washington Policy Center, pointing out to the justices that this tax is clearly unconstitutional. A lot of that language has been provided by Jason Mercier on our staff, as well as nationwide research of how every state handles it. An income tax, what the definition of it is, including a definition officially that we got from the IRS, that the so-called excise tax that the Democrats passed in our state is actually an unconstitutional income tax. So we'll see what the court does when we get into January. Next, Todd Myers published his second book, Time to Think Small. He's been doing a lot of media on that, doing speaking engagements nationwide, and kind of a nice compliment to us, he's been invited to speak at MIT next month, and that will be on the issue of science and freedom of thought and creativity. And that's a great thing for Todd to do. He's getting more national recognition, and we're pleased to support him in that. The other item that happened earlier in December was Governor Inslee announced his new budget for the 2023-25 2-year budget period. The state's fiscal year starts next July 1st. The legislature will be meeting starting on January 9th, and their main job is to pass a new 2-year budget for the state. Inslee gets that process started off by introducing a budget. Every governor does that. In this case, Governor Inslee just went way overboard as far as expanding the size of the state. He is acting as if there has been no COVID shutdown, no inflation, no recession. He doesn't see any of that, at least as far as it's reflected in his budget. It's the largest budget ever proposed in the state, well over $60 billion. He will likely propose spending down some of our reserves. We also think that he is setting up a case that the state is, this is almost comical, the state is short of money, he will argue, and therefore needs a tax increase. We will be pointing out that state revenues are higher than ever before, and that there's no need for a tax increase. In fact, we have made the case that every other state, including blue states, red states, have provided tax relief. Even California passed tax relief for its citizens, and Washington state has not. So our pitch to the legislature is going to be, you don't need to go as far as Inslee is going regarding spending. There's plenty of revenue to increase spending on government services if the legislature feels that's necessary, but revenue is so high, they can also provide broad-based tax relief. In an interview, Inslee said that he didn't support an income tax, he didn't support a tax cut because we don't have an income tax. So his argument is we need to have an income tax first, and then he can think about cutting taxes. We don't see the connection between those two issues at all. The second thing he said is he opposes a tax cut because billionaires might benefit. Well, our proposal is to cut the sales tax, which would benefit low-income people the most. But morally, what we say is, why should everybody be deprived of tax relief because there might be a few people that the governor doesn't like and he doesn't want to give them tax relief? I think most people across the state really wouldn't worry so much about a tax relief that someone else is getting, as long as there's broad-based tax relief for everybody in the state, and that benefits the public interest in general. Governor Inslee doesn't seem to see that, but that is a message we'll be conveying to the legislature when they meet. The next item is also with Governor Inslee. Elizabeth Hovde on our staff has been tracking very closely his vaccine mandate policy. So he imposed a vaccine mandate on all state workers starting in October of 2021. He confirmed, the governor did, that that is going to stay in place. Hundreds of state employees, perhaps thousands, have been fired because they didn't get the vaccine requirement. The law now data now shows that there really isn't any difference between vaccinated people and unvaccinated people as far as transmission and COVID cases. So there's a bill, HB 1029, that will be introduced in January, that will say that all state workers should be treated equally, regardless of their vaccination status, and that workers who are fired should be hired back to the positions that they can do in state government. Other states have done this, including Democratic-led states. They have rehired workers who were fired during COVID. But in particular, in our state, we have pointed out that the firings don't occur evenly across the workforce. They have tended to be concentrated in the Department of Transportation and in public safety areas. So that's state patrol, police, the ferry service, and kind of surprisingly, snowplow drivers and other transportation workers. This policy has hit them the hardest. So ferry service has already been cut back. The DOT has had trouble clearing snow out of the passes because they don't have enough personnel. And we're finding that there are vital public services that are either cut back or canceled because of an unnecessary vaccine mandate. The public health point of view is we don't seem to be gaining anything, certainly not now, by making this a mandated requirement. The governor is offering a $1,000 bonus to any worker who gets a vaccinated booster. Okay, great, but that doesn't do anything for workers who don't make that choice. And then, as I say, the data shows that it doesn't contribute to public health at all. So the governor's policy doesn't seem to be connected with the scientific facts. So that's a quick wrap up of what we're working on. We have a legislative reception coming up in Olympia on January 26th. We will be inviting lawmakers of both parties, staff from the legislature to join us at that event. It's a lot of fun. It's a great networking opportunity. And we also want to say thanks to all of our supporters throughout the year for giving us the support that's needed to make our work possible. We appreciate that. We're excited because our new president, Mike Gallagher, is leading us on a internal planning process, a 3-year strategic plan that kicks off next year to position us to have even more impact in providing good public policy ideas, doing more media impact, and growing our influence across the state, because we believe Washington State is ripe for practical reform ideas that will move our state forward. And the last item is on personnel. Again, Sean O'Brien is our new Eastern Washington director. He is also getting started in maintaining our program in Eastern Washington. But in particular, I put focus on that because we think Eastern Washington communities are neglected when it comes to the leadership of our state. So the current governing party, the Democrats, are primarily based in King County and Seattle. They have moved in a direction which is paying less attention, in fact, not listening to communities across the state. Southwest Washington and Eastern Washington tend to get neglected, and we will have a particular focus on making sure those communities are heard when the legislature meets in January. And with that, I again want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I will talk to you again next time.